the other platform and set that one manually because it is a little bit behind.
All right. Let's see if I got a better light here. That's a little warm. Yeah, that's what I have to do. I didn't put my studio lighting up. I literally just got back here, plugged the phone in, and I was gonna message you like, "Yo, give me a second." And then you were like, "The link's on the." You sent the link on Messenger, so I was like, "All right."
Okay.
And it's been a long time since I did any streaming, so I don't have anything set up. Like I don't have my podcast mic on. This little camera is like just on top of my MIDI controller.
I'll say you're good though. You're good. Let me make sure everything looks live on. Okay, cool. I just saw the link pop up. So I imagine it'll start seeing the people file in soon. They probably will throw it off because I'm normally not live at this time yet.
Oh, this is an early live.
Yeah, I went early that way that it'll give us time to be able to talk, and then we can hop in on that a little bit later.
Yeah.
So first off, I'll say welcome to my platform. This is the Political Matrix. I am, of course, the host, Marcus Young Morpheus Cage, and everybody out there, I got a special guest. This brother right here, we could talk for days on some of the experiences that we didn't have together. This man I consider like an actual brother to me. And also, besides just that, he also has his own thing going on as far as the music thing. So I will definitely let him kind of give a little bit of that for y'all, and especially anybody who is in the Kansas area in particular, because he resides. You're in Topeka, right?
I'm in Lawrence, but I'm connected to KC and all the way down to Oklahoma City, all that good stuff, man. I-70. I'm an I-70 industry mogul just for that little stretch of highway.
I hear you. So everybody out there, I know this seems like a very different stream than normal. A little background for y'all. Me and Nick were in the Navy together, and we served on this ship that we call it with love the Dirty D. It was the USS DeWert FFG 45, and some crazy times. So we got Nick. Actually, just to set this up just a little bit, because I'm gonna tease y'all with it. I'm gonna give y'all a little bit of how this all got organically started. Then we're gonna jump back and give y'all a little to build up, and then we're gonna go into that crazy night in Spain. So Nick first hits me up, and he's like, did I dream that? And I'm at first confused, like, okay, because we still keep in touch online, here to there. We're not, we don't always talk every day like we used to, but I was a little confused, like, okay, Nick, what are you talking about? I don't know what did you dream? And then when he said it, it was kind of crazy because for the last 6 months or so, started to doubt that this event, this night actually happened, and that it's just some stuff. Because I got a bunch of crazy Navy stories, and most sailors do. Nick got them too. We got these crazy stories that we almost have to like go and talk to somebody else who was there to be able to confirm if it actually really happened. And so Nick hits me up. He's like, yo, did this shit really happen? And I'm like, I was wondering the same shit. So that's the setup. So Nick, give them your side of things on like what was going through your mind when you reached out to me about this.
Sure. The at the base of it all, I'm I was coerced into a show, into a show. I do basically everything. When it comes to music, it's a shorter conversation to explain what I don't do. I don't do publishing or sync. Everything else, I've spent my 10,000 hours on. Um, and so one of the venue owners, like an owner of a music venue, I was trying to put one of my other artists on, and they were like, "Well, what about you?" Because I did a stand-in and I sang for a friend, and she was like, "Well, what about you? How much music do you have?" And as like a fool, I told her I have 4.5 hours of music. There are like it's just between singing and rapping the whole nine. She goes, "Good, I can just book you, and I don't have to worry about booking anybody else." So for 2 months, I was just like, I didn't want to do it, and then finally we got past another thing that we were doing as a committee where we are, and I was like, all right, well, fine, I'll do this. So I created a little promo, and I put that in the promo about. I say, I won't give away too much, but I put it in the promo basically, and I tagged it. I tagged you in it. I was like, I'm not lying. So the reason why I needed to reach out about that is because as I put it in the song, it's literally I'm going to be doing like a vagina monologue thing. Like I'm going to be the entire act all for the whole show. There's not a lineup. There's not a 20 artists. There's no openers. It's me. I'm doing everything. So between songs, I'll be telling stories. And that was one of the stories I wanted to tell and build out to, because there were other things that happened while we were on tour that just led up to that moment anyway, so I can squeeze out 5 minutes of just some nice storytelling between songs, and over the course of 3 or 4 songs I can get to the point where we're talking about Spain. And so but I wanted to confirm that I wasn't full of shit, because I don't fancy myself somebody who lies, and I, for the life of me, for 20 years, I've been just like, yeah, this is what happened. But then you don't want to misremember, and you don't want to.
Actually, to correct you, this would be over 22 years.
It's 22 years. Yes, we were
22 years. Yeah.
I'm just giving, round up to the nearest dollar, damn it. You know what I'm saying? No, so yeah, it was 20 plus, right? So I just wanted to make sure that I didn't misremember it, and I didn't, that it wasn't just something in my head. And there was only 2 people, and I didn't even remember the other person. I just remembered you. You remembered the third that was with us. I had them confused with someone else because it was that long ago, and there's been a lot of cannabis in my brain since then. So I just hadn't thought about it until I needed to think about it, and then when I needed to think about it, first you say, what are you talking about? So I just look like an idiot because it's something I posted out there and tagged you in. I was like, hey, what's up with that? You're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, motherfucker. So finally, this is what's messed up, right? So the whole, as far as the outward appearance, I'm just like, I reached out to somebody. They're like, no, you didn't. And then when the messaging, he's like, yeah, no, I remember now. It's like, motherfucker. But I'm not going to screenshot the stuff, But it was just funny that's been feeling like the trajectory of this story is, even at this point, later in time, it seems like a figment to anyone else I try to explain it to, with the exception of the people that were present. So that was I wanted to have the story for entertainment purposes, so that I knew what I was telling people, so that I make a show exciting and memorable and unique. But I needed to get facts right. And the problem here is, from the night that it happened, it was in Spanish, and he's the only one who spoke Spanish. And he never told me what was said. So here we are, because I'm hoping that
some of it was in English.
I don't remember any of it being in English. I remember not understanding a word that was said, and asking you, and you saying you don't want to know. And that was the end of the story for 22 years was I don't want to know what was said. And now I want to know. And now I want to know because now I have to know. I have to have a closing for this story, or I can't introduce it to my show.
Well, we got to give everybody the build up to like what we were even doing in Spain and how this whole like situation came about. So it started like we had already been doing like workups for like, what would you say, probably about a good, but 9 months or so before we went on that cruise.
On the tour? Yeah,
yeah.
I came back to the command in Puerto Rico, and we were still 6 months out from there.
Yeah.
That's when I met you.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, so we're getting ready to, we're doing these workups, doing all, the drills, maneuvers, all that nonsense that we do. And we find out that it's going to be a NATO cruise. And so we had, do you remember which, I can't remember exactly which countries it was that was out there with
Norway, Spain, Italy.
Yeah.
Give me just 2 seconds, man. Give me just 2 seconds.
Yeah. And so we were out with a bunch of different militaries, like you said. Because the only ones I remembered Italy was there. I remember Spain was there. Germany, Norwegians, and it might have been one other group. So we spent a lot of our time hitting the ports in Spain, and when we actually hit port the first time, like me and Nick, since I'm like the only one who was stationed overseas, not the only one, but of the young people,
to know that because he was in Italy before, and I was like, well, we're riding with him because obviously he's been around. We're not playing that bullshit, so we used him,
Where did everybody else go? Because we can speak a little freely on here. Where did everybody else go?
Oh man, they went to the whorehouses, man. All the brothers. We ain't gonna put, all the brothers went to the whorehouses and the clubs and the bars. But I don't know. There was a small contingent of us who wanted to see something, who wanted to just have a Roman day or a Spanish day or a British day. That's all we were looking to do was just get lost in the city, whatever city we were in. So we were all pretty confident, especially after La Spezia when Marcus established himself as a guy who could be kind of relied on when it came to the foreign aspect of it. So we're like, all right, well, we're going to ride with him. He seemed to have the same kind of interest as us. So we started running with you. And it's been iterations. When you go on leave, you only got one partner. So if you wanted to hang with a bunch of guys, sometimes you got to take on somebody else's kind of liberty buddy. You know what I'm saying? So there'd be about 6 to 8 of us, depending on how generous we wanted to be with our time, with other people, because you only get so much hours, when it comes to liberty. So, yeah.
Well, for people that don't understand, one thing I have to throw in, because this is going to be important for the story down the road. In the Navy, in particular, you have what's called a buddy partner system. Whenever the ship pulls in, it has to at least be 2 of you together at all times. You cannot leave your buddy partner. That's a big no-no. And me, since I'd already spent time overseas, I'd been all over different parts of Europe. I'd been, to a couple other places too. And I'd already been to Spain before that. And then they saw where, like, like you said in La Spezia, I just kind of like took off and I left. I had leave. I had leave up there.
You was out. You was doing something specific.
Yeah, I was doing something specific. We'll leave it at that. I had leave, and I was off. And by the way, I was engaged at the time, so I put that out there. So back to Rhoda. So we hit Rhoda. We're there the second time. And I told them, I was like, yo, you ain't got to do all that mess that what they doing. We can just go and dip out.
Let me interrupt you. We were in Spain twice. The first one, we were in Cadiz. We never hit Rhoda. Rhoda was number 2. I know they're close to each other, but we didn't touch Rhoda until the second time. So I just wanted to make sure that we had that one because we were in both towns.
Yeah.
Only 2 visits in Spain. You might have been to Rhoda twice, Nick, but I only was in once, and that was the one.
I've been to Rhoda before I came to the ship.
I guess there's that, yeah.
So, and then some of those encounters all get mixed up too. Which I don't know. Down the road, I might do another stream talking other Navy times, but and definitely me and Nick could go a couple of hours talking about some of the stuff that happened in our Navy days. So we're gonna keep it confined to this.
Yeah. Let's try to, because that's a podcast, at least a 6-month podcast all on its own.
Yes, most definitely. So I know where they're going. I'd say we going completely away from them. And so I asked a couple of locals, like, yo, where's the Italian Navy going? And a couple of those other guys. Because I wanted to make sure, I kind of knew where I wanted us to go, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't going where none of the Americans were going. And we weren't where most of the sailors in port were. So we can get completely away from them and be immersed with
NATO. Yeah.
And so, first spot we hit this bomb ass food spot, and then remember we wouldn't played we played what 9-ball after that.
So we were out for the late afternoon. I remember because that first place we ate was the best mayonnaise on fries I've ever had. And they had kebabs there. It was like a little bit of it was Spain, so it could be construed that there was some North African influence in there, but I remember they had kebabs, and that was a good spot. So that was the first thing we did, was we got some real, like, actual authentic food. None of the shit they trying to feed the United States Navy.
Before you get ready to party, because sailors in port, we got to do some partying and some drinking.
I didn't want to eat the food that they give to the filthy Americans when they go over there. You know what I'm saying?
No, so we get away from there. Then we go to the next spot. It's pretty chill, and it had like a little beachfront kind of right there, so we could walk down from the beach. After that, we're drinking, having a good time. Then we go to the main plaza. That's when things get interesting. And for those who have never been to Europe, it doesn't get started. Parties over there don't get started till midnight, really.
Yeah, man. I think it might have been 11 when we strolled into that town center, man.
Yeah. Easily.
It was like places were just getting moving. Yeah.
And so we get there with our little entourage. And they're kind of just starting to open up. People are just starting to file in. And y'all might think that this encounter is going to be like much later in the story, but no. It happens right about this time. Like almost we got in the door. We went through the first part, and then when you go through the front part, which is kind of like a bar area, once you went through the bar area, it was like a whole opened up area with
courtyard almost.
The courtyard, yeah. With tables and like a dance floor and all that. And this man right here, everywhere we went, he still had his sunglasses on. Now, mind you, it's like 11:30 at night.
I wear my sunglasses at night so I can,
And that's what kicks everything off. The girl looks over at him.
Oh man!
And she's like, in a very heavy, very heavy Spanish accent. You think you're cool with your sunglasses on? You remember that, Nick?
Yeah, I remember.
And so he turns around like, oh shoot, I got me one, coach. So he's about to go over there and start spitting game to her. But it didn't really go that way, did it, Nick?
Nah, man. She had other statements to make, and gifts to give, apparently.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yes, she did have a gift for you.
She gave me a rose.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if I was just super drunk or if the language had turned to Spanish, but then she asked me, well, you told me that she asked me if she can read my fortune.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, sure. And so she tells me something that's pretty vague, one of those fortune cookie things, you know, you're going to have 3 sons and be with a dark woman. And I asked, I said, and Marcus is out here, he's translating everything. I said, is it dark skin or dark natured, right? I don't remember what the answer was, but then I do recall that she had her hand out and Marcus said, well, now you have to give her $10 for the reading, you know, or $10 for the rose. I said, well, I don't want the rose. So I gave her the rose back. I don't think she took it. I don't know where that rose went. That's probably like, should have been my protective hedge or something. But then she said something. And she looked real ominous. That's the only word I can put it as. And then this motherfucker over here says, she put a curse on you. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? What did she say? He said, you don't want to know.
She did not like the fact that he kind of just casually gave the rose back to her. She threw it on the ground.
Oh, okay.
So,
it was probably cursed, like she didn't want the rose, like this rose already had something on it or something.
Well, no, it's kind of like if you went with it's kind of like if you think of like old European culture, if like some kind of woman of like stature gave you a rose, it was considered like giving you their favor or giving you luck. And granted, I didn't really think about all that at the time because alcohol was involved.
We were very drunk. We were not sober sailors.
And when you gave the rose back, it's like you were saying you didn't want her favor anymore.
Oh.
And so she took that as a massive sign of disrespect.
I need a time machine now. Shit. At least I could be like, I'll
I really wish that we could have like go back to that moment and so she tells me she don't want to talk to him no more. She's like he should just go and go find him a dumb hole to plug, basically.
Okay.
And so he still Nick doesn't go off and go chasing women or nothing, but he's kind of just sitting chilling over there with some of the other guys. And we're about to leave from this. And well, what she said as far as the curses, she said that you're and it was kind of vague what she said. She said like your fortunes would turn in a sense. And it didn't really like turn in what way? Are they gonna turn better or worse?
I've had a rough 20 years since then, let me tell you. Shit's looking better now, you know.
I mean, well, think about it. Like after that cruise, which this is jumping ahead a little bit and then we'll jump back. Wait a minute. Think about what happened after we got back.
Yeah, man. My father passed, and then I got booted.
Yeah.
My coping mechanism at the time, I had buddies that were with me when we were burying my father, you know, and this is before half the United States legalized cannabis, but I partook, you know, and then when I got back to the command, I got dropped with officers, you know what I'm saying? Like they really were trying to get me on something. They did. They got me on the cannabis, which is what it is. But yeah, and then I ended up in Kansas instead of staying in Florida with like the first girl that I should have just stuck around in Florida with.
with Donna.
And I ended up going to Kansas, which it's
well. Throw in this part. Tell everybody about your tattoo.
Oh yeah, I gotta. So I bet this woman, very early in our relationship, that Mike Tyson was going to beat Evander Holyfield. And this is right after Mike gets out of prison, and he's beating everybody's ass in like a minute or less. Like he's over here doing the Domino's delivery on motherfuckers' heads. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, all right, this should be easy. No, Evander Holyfield, not Lennox Lewis. Evander Holyfield. No, it was Lennox Lewis that beat him. And because he bit Evander, and then that was okay. So yeah, it was Lennox. And we bet the tattoo, if I lost, I'd get her name tattooed on me. It's still on my arm. I use it as an omen for the most part, like not so much a lesson. Now, full disclosure, she did get a tattoo of me on her to even. Plus, she was very clingy, and she was stage 5, so she just did that. But when you think about fortunes changing, because I'm from Chicago, I have a massive support system in Chicago, and as I was getting into music, I probably could have benefited by being in Chicago, Illinois, rather than Topeka, fucking Kansas. You know what I mean? And I've become very good at music, so it's one of those. I'm a Greek tragedy when it comes to music. One of the reasons why the name is Anthemis is that I'm behind these lines when I should have been in a major market with everything that I know to have my fortune going that way. And you can chalk some things up to personal choice or circumstance, but for the most part, it's entirely possible that I was not possessed, but the trajectory of my choices probably would have been a lot different had I not met this person who just like loomed a cloud over me. On the way back, I also had a dream, and I almost quit breathing and almost suffocated in my pillow. This bitch, we need to find her. You know what I'm saying?
If somebody can run across who this woman is,
oh my. She roses out in Rhoda and tries to tell you your fortune, and then she's also snooty. So you find her snooty. She's probably dead. That's the problem. I doubt.
I doubt it, because she wasn't that old.
She was a little older than us, but it wasn't. I just recall her being older. But that could just be my perception of the events that happened.
Well, I'm trying to remember if the image that I
like but.
Do you remember vaguely what she looked like hair color, eye color, any of that?
Well, yeah, no, she had very dark brown hair, dark brown eyes. She had that, Tuscan, Mediterranean olive skin. She looked mature, not old, but she looked more mature than I was. So, I mean, that could have been anything from 5 to 30 years about, over our age. But, she had a shawl, and she had a like one of those hood shawls, but the hood wasn't up. And then she had the basket, and the basket had roses in it. It was one of those old shoehorn looking baskets that wasn't quite enclosed. It was just you could slide a flower in and out of there or something. There was a little. For some reason, I felt there was a little bit of traditional garb, like traditional Spaniard clothing, almost Spaniard maiden clothing. But it could just be that whatever her colors that she was wearing made me think that. You know what I mean? I don't recall if she was wearing a dress or not. But I do remember she had it was a knit shawl that can kind of go over the head, but it was down.
Okay, now this is the part, because I wanted to save some of this for the live stream so that I could see how much I recalled and if my recollections match up to yours and if you remember everything. Do you remember a blonde-haired woman?
You're asking me to remember women.
Yes, more than 20 years ago.
From a
That
period that's all
time.
I was looking for. All we saw were women.
Yeah.
We were being very, very, very toxic and drunk. And now I feel it's completely terrible. I don't remember a blonde. I remember blondes, but I don't remember a blonde in Rhoda as any specific interaction. If you're going to tell me that she was blonde and I know that she had dark hair, then she probably represented herself different ways to each of our percent. I swear she was a witch.
Well, I remember continually talking to a woman who didn't have any of those things, who had blonde hair, who was probably late 20s, and continued to talk to her after we left there and went to the next place. Did you remember going to the next place after that? Because it was that interaction with the flower lady.
I think I got drunk after that, man. And I think I was upset, but not like too upset, but I was just like, this nigga won't tell me. You know what I'm saying?
It was very vague. She just said that you were going to have a change in your fortunes.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And you kind of did, because everything before that, you had really good luck on most stuff.
Yeah, I was.
And I mean, now where it got weird for me was the blonde-haired woman. That's where it got weird for me, because she was like, I know you. I'm like, what do you mean you know me? I don't know you. I'm pretty certain I don't know you. And she starts telling me stuff that I didn't tell anybody. The first thing I was like, is Nick putting her up to this? Like,
yeah, am I being an asshole?
Like that he guessed. He told her some shit, and like now she's trying to like run some kind of hustle on me. And then she starts going even deeper. Like, she was like, yeah, remember when you were 6 and like all the blood. Do you remember the blood when you were 6? Well, for those that don't know, up under here, I have stitches in my chin from a childhood accident where I fell and blood was everywhere, leaking out my chin. Now, this woman knew this story. And so that's the first thing that freaked me out. And so I'm sitting with her. You guys are just kind of standing there. Y'all kind of doing your own thing. Y'all drinking. I think you were probably having a cig at that time. But you probably maybe 5-10 feet away. No, I don't even think you were that far away. I was sitting down at the table.
We always stood pretty close to each other. Always, never knowing if we needed to. We've been in a few fights.
A couple of.
We never strayed far, because we saw what happened when motherfuckers leave people behind and in a foreign country when you are decidedly united, like representatives of U.S. imperialism. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of fights that happen when you're
just like that one when I had to come grab all of y'all and be like, "Yo, we need to go," and we had to go put hands and foot to ass.
Oh man.
But anyway,
that was Greece. That was another time,
We're not gonna go into Greece right now.
We're not gonna go into Greece
because I'm gonna ask you about this one. Like, when we're gonna take a break in between this one when we hop onto the other stream, and off camera, I want to ask you about this one because, oh man, I remember this story, and somebody was like, yeah, the whatchamacallit happened to you. And it freaked me out because I was like, the fuck are they talking about? Is this some kind of real mythical thing? But I'm not gonna go into that one right now. If y'all want to know about that story, then y'all can say, if y'all enjoyed this story, then ask and you shall receive. We will have another one of these like talks and we can go into this stuff. But this woman starts going into all this stuff. And so I got to give y'all some background on why this freaked me out even more. Back to my days in A school, I had this friend who would tell me like he said that he can like see people's auras and stuff. I just thought it was kind of like some nonsense because I'm like, who sees auras? Like, what does that even really mean? Anyway, he was like, my roommate had a dark spirit on him. And he's like, yeah, it looks like a woman who's like following him. And I'm like, I don't really believe in any of that stuff, but whatever you say. Come to find out later on that my roommate, his mom had died behind some mysterious circumstances that he blamed himself for his mom's death. And so he's saying that, yeah, that's the story that's the spirit that's following him or whatever. So we had another homeboy who he had like a real bad fight with his father, and they were kind of estranged. And he was talking about how angels and they have like this hour, like this witching hour stuff in the middle of the night, wherever it's like midnight in some areas, 3 a.m. some. I don't remember this. I don't remember how it worked. This was a long time ago. And he's like, angels like around this time for some reason have like some kind of extra anointing and ability to like really like manifest things and like kind of work in the spiritual realm. I don't know where he's getting any of his knowledge from. Or knowledge, or it could have just all been BS. But he said that our angels are away from us right now, and they're watching over this friend. And old boy came back in the room, tears streaming down his face, and was like, I just talked to my dad, and he's coming to have lunch with me, and everything is fine. And now we're gonna, make amends for like all this beef that we've been having for all these years. Anyway, this friend tells me like that he could see what my angel looks like, and tells me down the road at some point you're going to have a like crazy experience with some woman in a bar or restaurant, and she's gonna have messages for you. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. And so we're having this like crazy boot camp. Well, not boot camp, it was A school, but we were down in Chicago, and some kind of weird stuff happened, like kind of spiritual type stuff going on. And so I don't think much of it. And I kind of forget about that stuff from A school. I'm out to my first command. I'm over here. We're doing all this traveling. At that time, 9/11 had already happened. So a whole lot going on since that A school experience, which now at that point, it had been what, 3 years, maybe? It had been about maybe 3 years, 3.5 years since he told me like this event was going to happen. And so I'm like, that's vague. At the time, Navy guys hang out at a bunch of bars, clubs, and meet women. So what does that mean? But this woman like starts telling me all kind of stuff that literally nobody on the ship could know. She starts telling me about my homeboy Enoch, who died while I was in boot camp, and how he died and all this stuff like that. This all happened that night, Nick. She started telling me about like my father and stuff like that, and stuff that he did, and like stuff between my father and my mom. And she starts going deep in all this stuff. So we exchanged numbers because she's like, there's a lot more I need to tell you and kind of help guide you on this stuff. She's like, we're like kindred spirits, not like in some kind of relationship or sexual kind of way. But she's like, there are people who are in the world and they're meant to help guide each other towards their pathways. And so to carry on, after we leave that spot, it's getting late because, we got to be back to the ship. What was it? We had to be back by like, I can't remember what time it was. Like
muster is at 7 a.m. I don't know.
I think we had to be back by like 1, back to the ship.
Yeah, there.
And me and Nick were heading back, and our captain had made this big speech. If any of y'all get out there, get into any more fights, the whole ship is gonna basically be locked down on Liberty. Nobody
remember that threat. That was the EXO that said that shit.
Yeah,
EXO over the 1MC and said that shit.
Yep. And so with that in my mind, I'm thinking, man, we can't get it. And then he even extended it out. He said, if you see any of the other ships that are out and they get in trouble, you're getting in trouble along with all them. So it's as if the Germans get into some shit, Italians get into shit, we're supposed to keep each other in check because we're all NATO representatives.
Yeah.
On the way back, were they Germans or were they Norwegians?
They were the Norwegians. We ran into them so often at every port. It was the big, tall, heavy-set dude.
Yeah.
And the 2 other dudes, and we always run into them. We'd always spend like 3, 5, 10 minutes just chatting on our cross paths. We might have gone to a restaurant or 2 with them, but we always see them. It's always those 3 motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, and welcome to the stage. This is my boy Cy Lawson, my co-host. Chris, Nick, Chris.
How's it going, brother?
What's good, man? What's up, Nick? How you doing, man? Marcus, what's up?
We're getting to the end of this story, and then we're gonna hop out of this and then hop back in on the other side of this on the other link. Oh. But feel free, Chris, if you got any questions that you want to add into this, feel free.
We'll keep going on the other one, so it's straight.
So we see them about to get in trouble. And by the way, do you remember what the Norwegian women used to do on the top of the ship?
I don't. I just know that everybody else had co-ed and we was only the motherfucking ship with all men.
Yeah, I was like,
that's all I remember.
Oh, wait a minute. Y'all really like topless sunbathing on the top of y'all ship? Like, this is wild.
It was summer. We toured in the summer. Yeah, that would have been nice to see. Yeah.
And then do you remember I went on the Spanish ship for a little bit?
Yeah, everybody went on the Spanish ship because I was on. They fucking restricted me. I couldn't go have sangria with everybody on the Spanish ship that one day. That was in Marmaris. Reported into Marmaris, and they made all that sangria. I'm like, Patty, you got to stay on the ship. Like, you motherfuckers.
Well, it's kind of funny that you brought up the staying on the ship part because it's leading to I ended up eventually having to stay on the ship. They had just gotten into a fight. And like I just told y'all, if any of them got in trouble, we all were going to get in trouble. And so I see like the Spanish cops literally like putting cuffs on people and about to start putting them in the car. I run over and start trying to like diffuse the situation. But like one of the cops, he's listening, so he lets this guy go. But like another one, he's still kind of like being a little out of control. And so I'm like begging and pleading with the cops. I told Nick, yo, it's getting late. We're not gonna make it back in time. Just head back.
Tell the story.
Head back. Tell them that, you know, that I was out here and I'm with the Norwegians trying to keep them from getting locked up. And so I'm able to get them free. A couple of them, they dip and leave their homeboy, the chubby one that he's talking about, super drunk. And so I get us back to the pier. I'm like basically carrying this big ass dude almost the whole way there. Then all of a sudden, when we get almost to the ship, because they were docked right next to us, he starts sobering up all of a sudden and walking perfectly fine. And I'm showing up basically by myself, just like a good 30, 45 minutes late. So I end up having to get right back up first thing in the morning in my whites, by the way. Had to go to Discipline Review Board, or DRB, with all the chiefs on the ship and try to explain this story to them, why I'm late without a buddy partner. And none of them was buying shit. So go from DRB to now I got to go to Captain's Mast. And so Captain's Mast, I get hit with, what was it? 60 days restriction, 60 days extra duty, half month's pay times 2.
You didn't get busted down though.
Didn't get busted down. I got lucky. This is the second time I got lucky not get busted down. The other one, for long story short, it was for fighting. But I didn't get busted down, and so I stayed on the ship. And I almost forgot to tell y'all what happened like shortly after that, because before this, like remember I told y'all I exchanged numbers with the woman who was telling me all this cryptic stuff about my past. She calls me on the ship and she tells me, it's like, you have this gift if you choose to embrace it. If you embrace it, you'll have it and it'll be able to take you a long way. But if you don't, you'll basically lose that and you'll be kind of lost.
Atrophy kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, she tells me, don't think about nothing. Just think about this one point on the ship. Tell me what's happened there and go there. And so I tell her, hey, there's going to be somebody sitting at the end of the table. Because I was on the forecastle, which is near the front of the ship. And our ship classroom was all the way in the back. And I told her, I said, it's going to be one dude sitting at the end of the table, another one who's sitting at the table, kind of like looking forward, like writing something. And another one is going to be like at the computer, lean back. And when I walked in,
there was a heli bay.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where it was.
Yeah.
And everything that I had pictured in my head was exactly what was going on. But for some reason, end up losing communication with her and stopped talking, and then all this stuff kind of just drifted away. And then right after we got back from the cruise, Nick's father passed. Then, smoked, then got kicked out, and we didn't really talk about any of that stuff since then until, what was it, a couple of days ago.
And the night I had, my last night after I got kicked out, I cut a girl's leg by accident from slamming some Remy Martin on the ground at our favorite bar. So we had time before I had to leave, and then she wanted to fight. I was so drunk. That was the only time.
That was the Ocean Club.
Bitch, and that wasn't
I had to drag you out of there.
Yeah, that was a bad boy. And the doormen all knew us.
Yeah, because
literally, like, whenever I do some crazy shit in that place, like all the time, they would just be like, "Oh, Pat," you know what I'm saying? Like, but this time they were like, "Bro, you got to get your man out of here."
Mm-hmm.
And she was going, she was like, "I'll fuck you up, I'll kick your ass." And I'm like, "Bring it on." And then you were yelling at me in the parking lot. She's a chick, man. Stop doing that. I was like, man, I didn't mean to cut her leg, but she want to take it there. Let's go.
Yeah. So the sum of the night,
it was bad.
We get into Spain. Nick basically turns away the favor of a woman and gets himself cursed. I end up meeting basically, I don't know what it was, a witch or some kind of like spiritual presence pretending to be a woman. I don't know what I
We
meant.
went to a witch bar and we might have met two different witches, and my witch cursed me and your witch gave you a blessing. And we should have never walked into that fucking bar ever.
Yeah.
Oh man,
What town were we in?
that was Rhoda.
No, but it was Rhoda. It wasn't directly in Rhoda.
that might have been Cadiz then, because we were pretty close. Rhoda and Cadiz are.
Was it?
No, it starts with an L. It was a coastal city. I remember that.
Yeah, I have to look it up, but yeah, that's that crazy night.
In Spain.
Yes, of course, Yonina. Of course, I ignored the spiritual stuff. At that time, I was on some different shit.
We were on different spirits. You know what I'm saying? And Diesel Rono.
A lot of spirits. We were on a lot of spirits. And it's funny. I just happened to be drinking a Red Bull tonight because when I got to the ship, that's what I used to drink, Red Bull and vodka, because coming from overseas, Red Bull like just came out. Well, it just came out to the States, but it was huge in Europe already. Spirit guide, not a witch. I'm a witch, and I will. Well, okay, I'm not trying to piss off no witches out here.
Yeah, no, I'm not either. I'm just saying. When I mean witch, I mean Wicca. I don't mean witch like bitch. I don't, or hag or anything.
Yeah, don't.
Somebody that had actual. I should have adhered to. You know what I mean? A little bit differently.
We both should have adhered that night.
But I was in my 20s and drunk, and I was literally on top of the world. Like I was a bit of a ladies. I mean, I thought that was going to be my tag for the night. You know, that's what I thought initially. So, what?
Wow. And I mean, what? I think I was I might have been 23, maybe.
Yeah, you were 23. I was 22. I was 21, turning 22.
Yeah. So that's that crazy night, y'all. In the comments comments, anybody who's watching this later on, if y'all want to hear more crazy Navy stories with me and Nick, man, y'all let us know. Y'all already know my social medias to holler at me. But yeah, Nick, if you wanted to drop anything about the music on this one before we get out of here, well, before we hop on to the next the actual live stream for the show.
Not really, man. Rapveterans.com. I teach if you're a rapper out there or anything like that. I do have a course show you how to tour without getting into debt and nothing, DIY kind of stuff. I know that every time I was looking for something in the realm of touring, it was either completely useless information or just information that rock bands can use. You know what I mean? Very specific. It wasn't something that had to deal with the nuance of being a rapper in the United States of America and dealing with tour stops where I'm pretty sure there's, preconceived notions and things of that nature. So bureaucracy, politics, and funding are things that independent rappers have to deal with, and my course addresses those things while maintaining a low exposure financially and gives a lot of bang for the buck. It is a free course, but it is by invite, so I encourage if anyone's involved with the music to sign up onto the site, register on the site, and you can send a message and say, hey, I watched you on the Political Matrix. I was just going to call it the Matrix, but that's anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And then we can have a conversation and see where your head's at. I'd like to know who's getting involved with this course. It's got a lot of useful and valuable information that's worth a lot of money. It's worth a lot of money to the right people. So, but I've always been on my socialism shit, and so I feel. Just the more of us that are out there, the easier it is to rise to the top. That's how I believe. I believe I will rise to the top of any musical or industry scenario. I just got to find myself in those scenarios and in those circumstances, and then you will know the anthem is T-Rock and Roll. They're like, oh yeah, I heard of that dude.
Yeah, I got a feeling Chris will definitely have some questions for you when we go on the live, because Chris is definitely a hip hop music head for sure. So on that note, we're gonna close this show out. Everybody, make sure you hop on. We're about to hop on to the live. Make sure you hop on to the live. We're about to hop on to it. Chris, Nick, I just sent you the link. So I'm about to end this stream, and then I will see everybody on the other side.
Let's do it.